Since first appearing on screen in 2018's Black Panther, the African nation of Wakanda has become one of the most iconic settings in the MCU. But what's the real story behind T'Challa's homeland? This is the history of Wakanda explained. Everyone knows Wakanda as the civilization that discovered vibranium. The true origins of the country, however, are far more complicated than that, and are rooted in a deep and mysterious mysticism. Wakanda was originally home to a collection of beasts known as the Originators. Among these ancient creatures were beings such as the serpentine Simbi, the ape-like Vanyan, the arachnoid Anansi, and the insectoid swarm known as the Creeping Doom. Eventually, ancient human beings were drawn to the area, where they soon encountered these strange beasts. They all lived in harmony for a while, but the Originators balked when humans started to abuse the land's natural resources. A deadly conflict ensued, and among the human combatants arose heroes that ascended to become the gods of Wakanda, otherwise known as the Orisha. With the help of the Orisha, the Originators were defeated and banished to the Nether Realms, forever losing the land they had called home. Wakanda was founded shortly after. For years, the country developed pretty much just like any other ancient civilization. But soon enough, thanks to a little cosmic mischief, a rock from outer space would land in Wakanda, one that would forever change the Marvel Universe. In the early days of Wakanda, the country's ancient denizens learned to manipulate storm clouds in order to funnel cosmic energy for their own ends. But this practice had an unintended side effect. It caused the Wakandans to pull down a meteor from space. This meteor contained a metal that absorbed both sound and energy, which the world would later come to call vibranium. The first tribe to be brave enough to investigate the meteor crash site was led by Bashenga, Wakanda's biggest and baddest warrior. Bashenga immediately saw the value of this new substance and decided to put it to use in his tribe's weapons, giving them an edge over their foes. Nowadays, vibranium is one of the most important aspects of the Marvel Universe. For one thing, it's what Captain America's shield is constructed from.
The most versatile substance on the planet, and they used it to make a frisbee.
But the use of this metal helped modern Wakanda become the beacon of technological advancement that it is today, not to mention the most well-defended country on the planet. While the benefits of vibranium are clear, its discovery set off a chain of events that would forever change the landscape of the world. It also ushered in a series of unintended and deadly consequences. Although Bashenga's brutal methods may have seemed suited towards a simpler, more primitive time, he ended up being one of the most important figures in Wakandan history. Bashenga first believed the vibranium meteor to be a gift from the gods. Unfortunately, his tribe quickly found that exposure to untreated vibranium can mutate living things on Earth into grotesque monsters, which they named demon spirits. In order to combat these new foes, Bashenga prayed to the Panther God to give him the strength to defeat them, thus making him the first of the proper Black Panthers. Basically, if you were born in ancient Wakanda and ended up being exposed to a little too much vibranium, there was a good chance you'd turn into a monster, and a superpowered panther would show up and beat the living hell out of you. Now, it was later revealed that there had actually been a prehistoric Black Panther, but the lineage that ends with King T'Challa got its start with Bashenga's battles against the demon spirits. Eventually, Bashenga united the region's various tribes and formed the singular nation of Wakanda. The radiation from the vibranium meteor didn't just affect people, though. It also had an impact on the flora and fauna of the surrounding area, hence the special herbs that Black Panthers consumed to give them their powers. After becoming the first Black Panther, Bashenga recognized the destructive power of the vibranium meteor and closed it off to the rest of the kingdom. In the process, he also established the Black Panther cult, who swore to use the powers of the meteor to protect the people of Wakanda and stop the demon spirits from spreading. But while Wakanda's Black Panther cult is obviously the most prominent, it's not the only one, and the Wakandans worship a number of other animal gods. These groups include the Lion Cult, the Crocodile Cult, the Hyena Clan, and the most dangerous of all, the White Gorilla Cult. T'Challa's rival M'Baku, who is otherwise known as Man-Ape, would lead the people of his village in consuming the flesh of the mutated white gorillas of the region, gaining their super strength for themselves. M'Baku would eventually use this power to overthrow the Black Panther and briefly take the throne of Wakanda for himself.
If the world found out what we truly are, what we possess, we could lose our way of life.
Throughout history, many have tried to invade Wakanda, and many have failed too. All kinds of armies, ranging from the Romans to the Knights Templar to hordes of demons from hell, have made their way to the region and were each thoroughly beaten back. However, in the 1800s, the country faced its greatest threat yet. led by the Belgian colonel named Claw. A group of white soldiers targeted the area after an otherwise successful conquest of South Africa. Luckily, they were no match for the Wakandan technology, which caused their guns to misfire. Colonel Claw himself was killed during the invasion, but that wasn't the last Wakanda had seen of the Claw family. Unfortunately for the Wakandans, Claw had an equally deplorable son, and when World War II came around, Colonel Fritz Claw couldn't join the Nazis fast enough. He made his way to Wakanda in an attempt to impress Hitler, only to be welcomed by the then-current Black Panther, King Azuri, and shown the secrets of its vibranium. Then, when his real intentions became clear, Claw Jr. was beaten back to Germany. But this event put Wakanda firmly in the crosshairs of both the Axis and Allies. That's when Azuri and his son T'Chaka enlisted the help of Captain America to keep the Nazis, led by Baron Strucker and the Red Skull, from taking over the country. The battle against the Nazis was the first modern invasion that Wakanda had fought, and against a technologically advanced and highly knowledgeable enemy, no less. It was this war that taught a young T'Chaka of the dangers of the outside world and how desperately they coveted Wakanda's secrets. Many stories that involve the Black Panther tend to pick up during the reign of T'Chaka, largely because he was perhaps the most important ruler the country had seen up to that point. Certainly, King T'Chaka was a significant influence on the country's decision to keep itself cut off from the world. Raised in the turbulent times of World War II, T'Chaka saw what happens when the outside world discovers Wakanda for what it truly is, and how it almost always ends with the spilling of Wakandan blood. His solution was to conceal Wakanda from the outside world, tricking everyone into thinking it had no more to offer than any other African country. T'Chaka would sell a little vibranium technology here and there in order to keep the lights on, while at the same time secretly developing the country's sharpest minds. To this end, T'Chaka developed a system in which Wakanda would send its best and brightest to study abroad so that they could bring their knowledge back to Wakanda and help it thrive in secrecy. Unfortunately, things fell apart when Ulysses S. Claw, a descendant of the Belgian colonel, led an assassination mission into Wakanda. During Claw's attack, T'Chaka was killed protecting his young son T'Challa. In return, T'Challa avenged his father by shattering Claw's right arm. In the comics, when T'Chaka died, T'Challa was just 13 years old, far too young to take the throne. As per Wakandan customs, his uncle Sion performed the ritual and became the next Black Panther, acting as King Regent in his nephew's stead. While Sion kept things in check, T'Challa went to study in Europe and the United States. He would eventually gain a PhD in physics from Oxford University, before finally coming of age and returning to Wakanda to take his rightful place on the throne. Wakanda forever! T'Challa's homecoming was briefly waylaid by the organization known as AIM, who captured him while he was looking for the heart-shaped herb that would give him the power of the Black Panther. Luckily, he managed to escape with the help of a childhood friend, and went on to beat his uncle in the infamous Wakandan combat ritual. Once all was said and done, T'Challa had gained the superhuman powers of the Black Panther, as well as the heavy responsibility of ruling his secret kingdom. Many of the early Black Panther stories involve T'Challa grappling with his loyalty to his father's legacy as Wakanda grows and prospers. Having developed new kinds of technology and welcomed a number of new superheroes, the country eventually became impossible to hide. Under King T'Challa, Wakanda finally revealed itself to the world.
We must find a way to look after one another as if we were one single tribe.
One of the most infamous events in Marvel history is the Secret Invasion, which saw an alien race known as the Skrulls attempt to invade Earth by posing as the planet's key leaders and heroes. Inevitably, the Skrulls quickly identified Wakanda's importance and wasted no time in infiltrating the country. Fortunately, Black Panther got wise to their ruse and took steps to ensure that he could pull a fast one on the invaders. Eventually, things came to a head, and the Skrull invasion of Wakanda was reduced to a good old-fashioned battle. In the end, the Wakandan army won out and sent a ship full of Skrull corpses back to their home planet, with words of warning written in blood on the walls. This war against the Skrulls taught T'Challa that Wakanda's advanced tech wouldn't be enough to save it as the universe grew bigger. And he was right. Now knowing that he desperately needed new allies, T'Challa found his chance to open Wakanda's borders when the Avengers engaged in an all-out war with the X-Men. This war soon made its way to Wakanda when Namor, the king of Atlantis, managed to unleash a devastating tsunami on the country while possessed by the galactic power of the Dark Phoenix. The destruction was widespread, and T'Challa was filled with rage. He vowed revenge on Namor and became absolutely consumed with his quest for vengeance. Despite being outmatched by the Dark Phoenix, T'Challa and his friends managed to stop Namor while there was still some semblance of Wakanda to salvage. T'Challa's sister Shuri led the reconstruction of Wakanda, but the Wakandans never forgot or forgave Namor and his Atlanteans. A war broke out between the two nations, but partly because Wakanda was still weak, a somewhat contrite Namor offered the country generous peace terms. Shuri rejected the terms, however, and led a successful campaign to invade and destroy Atlantis. Later, when Thanos came to Earth, Namor tricked him into attacking Wakanda, allowing the Mad Titan and his Black Order to take part of the country. For the first time ever under a Black Panther king, Wakanda had lost a portion of its precious land. Following these numerous tragedies, social and political upheaval began to take shape as people lost faith in King T'Challa and his court. Two revolutionary factions emerged, the Midnight Angels and the People. An offshoot of the Dora Milaje, the Midnight Angels began practicing vigilante justice in the face of a government and king that seemingly couldn't get the job done. The People were more like religious zealots who carried out terrorist attacks designed to further destabilize the Wakandan government. Meanwhile, the Black Panther fought to ensure the survival of the legacy of his ancestors and keep his subjects safe at any cost. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite comic heroes are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.